of people just do fuck all with their lives and shit, and it's just a lot of stuff like that. It's like a depressing album, it's just an angry album.
From UK underground metalcore pioneers to global electro-pop superstars, Bring Me the Horizon are arguably one of the most innovative bands of our time.
Mantra.
The band have constantly tried to evolve and pushed their creativity to its limits in the face of constant criticism from the media and fans alike. This ever-growing uphill struggle would either make or break them. This is the story of how 5 young, passionate musicians from the United Kingdom became one of the biggest bands on the planet.
I know something you don't know!
Oliver Scott Sykes, also known as Ollie, was born in Ashford, Kent. His family moved to Sheffield when he was around 9 years old. Ollie, like many creative children, suffered from ADHD and was hyperactive, getting into trouble at school and writing swear words on people's cars throughout his neighbourhood.
Got in trouble for going around the street and writing swear words all over people's cars and shit like that.
This uncontrollable need to express himself creatively, be it positive or negative, would eventually lead him to become a dynamic singer and an artist with his own clothing brand. Ollie needed an outlet, a destructive outlet that wouldn't land him in trouble during his teenage years or worse, prison. His early interest in aggressive hardcore screaming would be his path to musical enlightenment.
I mean, I've always been into art since I've been little. That's what all I used to do when I was at school in my spare time. I just used to sit and draw and stuff.
From an early age, Ollie would spend most of his spare time honing his skills as an artist, but this would only satisfy his need for self-expression to a certain limit. He would soon look towards music for a more physical outlet. When Oliver Sykes was just 13, he started to take an interest in metal music and would spend hours sending his parents crazy by screaming in his bedroom, trying to imitate his new metal idols.
And I'd stand and I'd go, Oliver, for God's sake, shut up, I'm sick of hearing you screaming, just be quiet.
When Ollie turned 14, his mum, Carol Sykes, would start driving Ollie to concerts across Sheffield and Manchester, where Ollie would regularly come home with black eyes from stage diving. Shortly after Ollie got a taste of live music, he would soon find himself on stage for the first time at an iconic British venue called the Cockpit in Leeds. At the start of the new millennium, there was a new wave of metal music digging its roots into the music scene. It was a mix of hardcore and heavy metal, and often labelled as post-hardcore, emo and metalcore. Some notable post-hardcore and metalcore bands from the time included Thrice, Under Oath, Bullet for My Valentine, and Norma Jean, to name a few. One of the bands that started to make big waves across the UK was a Welsh band called Funeral for a Friend. Their concert at the Cockpit in Leeds that Ollie would attend would be cut short just 10 minutes after the band started to play, the singer passing out from being too ill.
Passed out on stage and that, and like 10 minutes later I'm like, we're really sorry, but we can't play any longer, Matt's really ill, he can't carry on.
However, this wouldn't be the end of the show, as an eager young Oliver Sykes raised his hand and vowed to carry on the show as Funeral for a Friend's one-night temporary singer.
I'll sing, just shouted it. They were like, what? And they're like, I'll sing. And they're like, come on then. and kind of got on stage and we started playing out American football. And
This was Ollie's first real taste at seeing his dreams come true. Drummer Matt Nichols and Ollie have been long-time friends since the beginning, and Matt also suffers from ADHD.
he's like me, he has ADHD.
I've been like it forever. Basically, I just can't sit still.
So for someone who struggles to sit still, drumming in a metal band seems like the perfect way to spend his spare time. However, Ollie and Matt had more than just ADHD in common. Both of them hated school and neither of them liked being told what to do. This rebellious attitude would become the very foundation that Bring Me the Horizon would be based on.
My dad said like, right, you can have whatever you want, what do you want? And I was just like, I want a drum kit.
When Matt was young, his parents would divorce, which for most children becomes quite a traumatic experience. Matt's dad, however, decided to turn this into an opportunity to fuel his son's passions and bought Matt his first drum kit. The day Matt started drumming would change his life.
As soon as I got into drumming and music, I was just like, this is what I want to do.
I basically taught myself for the first 2.5 years or something like that, and all I did is play like Metallica riffs. When you get on a guitar and you've got like a good amp sound, you always want to play Master of Puppets. It's just like a go-to riff.
Guitarist Lee Mallier would become the man behind the music. With heavy influences of blues and metal from an early age, he would use his diverse creativity to team up with Ollie and Matt and become the musical driving force behind the band. Before Bring Me the Horizon, Lee and former guitarist Curtis Ward would play Metallica covers at local bars with their band Fifth Column. However, Lee simply wasn't content with playing other people's songs. He wanted to write his own. With Ollie, Matt, Curtis and Lee becoming obsessed with heavy music, all of them spending their time practicing their newfound skills at home or playing in covers bands, it was only a matter of time before fate would bring them together. Ollie, Matt, Curtis and Lee would soon meet bass player Matt Keane, and Bring Me the Horizon were born. When Bring Me the Horizon formed in 2004, their dream was to simply play music and vent their anger on stage. They never thought for a second they would become as big as they are today. Although some heavy music and rock music had managed to break into the charts at this time with the likes of Linkin Park, Velvet Revolver, Audio Slave, and Metallica, it seemed almost unthinkable that 5 young lads from Sheffield would receive any attention at all with their hardcore style of metal music, a style of music that was labelled as deathcore. On the 30th of October 2006, Bring Me the Horizon would release their first full-length debut studio record, and it would receive mixed reviews. Some critics hailing the record as the dawn of a new musical era, whilst others slammed the band for lack of innovation and creativity, and said they would never amount to anything. In the years to come, Bring Me the Horizon would be constantly criticised for changing and diversifying their sound. However, this diametrically opposing opinion would ultimately become their greatest selling point. Their rebellious nature when it came to ignoring the rules of genre would spark constant controversy among fans and the media, which gave the band an ever-growing platform to capitalise on. In 2004, Bring Me the Horizon would play their first ever show at a local bar in Rotherham. They only played 2 songs and made up the 3rd song on the spot.
First show, yeah, we had 3 songs and we had 1 song that we just kind of made up on the spot.
Ollie had his hair extensions ripped out, jumping into the crowd as kids would be running across pool tables and throwing chairs on stage. It was chaos. The band started to headline shows across the north of England on a regular basis, but only had 4 songs, so they would often repeat their set 2 or 3 times to play a full 40 minutes. The band didn't even have a record out at this point, but they already had a cult-like fan base. With this early passionate fan base and an EP release in 2004, This Is What the Edge of Your Seat was made for, the band knew they had something special when kids started to scream their lyrics back to them. It was inevitable that their debut album, Count Your Blessings, would be huge. Although Count Your Blessings would put Bring Me the Horizon on a path to seeing their dreams come true, the band would eventually come to hate this record.
We were actually doing headline shows with 4 songs and kids were loving it and we were baffled, but...
Kids actually singing and climbing on stage and jumping off, and sound guy were throwing kids head first off at stage.
Despite this, the lads would soon find themselves touring the United States with absolutely no idea what they were doing.
We didn't have a tour manager at the time either, so we're all going in and straight in our pockets. We just didn't know what we were doing, basically. I think we were just
young,
over our heads, young in America, doing really well, going really well, so we just went and spent it all on alcohol.
In the beginning, Bring Me the Horizon came together due to their love of heavy music and a desire to vent anger and frustration. But they soon realised that they all wanted to desperately explore their creative side and develop their sound, something that would divide fans for years to come. In 2007, Bring Me the Horizon would get their first big break, but it wasn't what they hoped for. They landed a tour support slot with American metal band Kill Switch Engage. Unfortunately, the band would have bottles thrown at them on stage for most nights of the tour before they even started to play the first song. If anything, this only drove the band to fight harder for what they believed in. They knew they had something more to offer. In 2008, Bring Me the Horizon would enter the studio again to record their second album, Suicide Season. This album demonstrated a clear desire to experiment with sound and melody while staying true to their metal roots. However, it would also create a huge divide between fans and the band. The album was released in September of the same year and a US tour would follow. However, the band's future was thrown into question when guitarist Curtis Ward announced his departure from the band. On top of this, Ollie discovered that one of his best friends had been stealing from the band, which left him heartbroken.
That he was stealing from us and that kind of like broke my heart, because he'd been my best friends from school since I was about, I don't know, from the start, you know what I mean?
Things were starting to fall apart. Ollie vented his anger and pain the only way he knew how. He transformed his experience into lyrics, but there was a much bigger threat to the band's future, which was Ollie himself.
It was about a big secret. It was basically a big mistake I made. It almost made the demise of the band, like.
Ollie was hiding an addiction, one that nearly cost him his life. He had lost the will to live, and trying to keep his addiction a secret was slowly burying him.
To the point where I didn't want to be me anymore. I didn't want to have to think about what being Ollie Sykes. People say my name and it made me cringe. So
luckily for Ollie and his family, he decided to go to rehab to fight his addiction. Whilst it was a serious risk to his health and the future of the band, it could also be seen as one of his biggest influences when it came to his heartfelt and passionate lyrics. Despite the chaos that engulfed the band throughout 2008 and 2009, Bring Me the Horizon would be reborn in 2010 and reach new heights of success. Not only would their third studio album reach top 20 spots in the UK and American album charts, but the band would embark on their biggest tour to date. An arena stadium tour with Bullet for My Valentine that would see Bring Me the Horizon play the iconic London Wembley Arena in the United Kingdom. In just 6 years, Bring Me the Horizon had gone from trashing small bars to playing an arena that held over 12,000 people, and this was just the beginning. The band would enter the studio again with renowned producer Fredrik Nordstrom during the summer of 2010 to work on their most ambitious album to date. It's no secret that one of Ollie's biggest influences growing up was Linkin Park, so he was ready to experiment with electronic music, something the rest of the band were more than happy to try out. Despite not really knowing much about how to create electronic music, Ollie and the lads were up for a challenge, and it would pay off big time. Not only would There Is a Hell become the biggest production album the band had released, but it would also land them top 20 spots in several countries around the globe, including the UK and US album charts. The band were about to explode, literally. During the arena tour supporting Bullet for My Valentine, Bring Me the Horizon had their set cut short due to the crowd becoming violently uncontrollable. The organisers put the band under strict orders not to interact with the crowd or encourage them to start any mosh pits. Naturally, Bring Me the Horizon responded the only way they knew how. They refused to be told what to do and created huge walls of death in the crowd. Despite the band receiving constant criticism, they were quickly becoming unstoppable. In 2006, they would play the MySpace stage at the iconic Download Festival in England. This would be their first ever festival appearance. Some years later, in 2014, Bring Me the Horizon had risen through the ranks to land themselves a slot on the main stage, just below Linkin Park. A dream come true for Ollie Sykes and an incredible achievement for the band. In 2012, Bring Me the Horizon would start work on their critically acclaimed fourth studio album, Sempiternal. Ollie decided to work with renowned American producer Terry Date, who had worked with the likes of Deftones, Limp Bizkit, and Pantera. Some of Ollie's biggest musical influences. During this time, Ollie would finally kick his long-standing substance addiction after a stint in rehab. He thanked his fans, the band, and his family for sticking by him and said without this, Sempiternal would never have happened.
Before we wrote Sempiternal, I was a fucking drug addict. They stood by me, they supported me through all that shit, and we wrote Sempiternal because of it. And when I got out of that rehab, I didn't want to fucking scream anymore, I wanted to sing it from the fucking rooftops.
On the 14th of January 2013, Bring Me the Horizon released the first single from their fourth studio album, Shadow Moses. On the 1st of April 2013, Bring Me the Horizon released Sempiternal, and it became their highest charting UK and US album at the time. By this point in their career, Bring Me the Horizon had become tired of the hypocrisy of the media, one day saying they wouldn't amount to anything, and the next praising them as the saviours of British metal. The band had also had enough of watching people across social media fighting for no reason and simply causing problems rather than solutions. This would lead to the band writing one of the most aggressively heavy songs of their career, Antivist. Although Sempiternal would help to kickstart Bring Me the Horizon's creativity and experimental nature when it came to electronica, their fifth album, That's the Spirit, would open up an entirely new musical world for them. They played the Royal Albert Hall in London, one of the most iconic venues in the United Kingdom. Not only was this a step up for the band due to the prestigious reputation of this concert hall, but the band would play live with a full orchestra, something that was quite unthinkable considering their metal roots. It was clear Bring Me the Horizon had grown as people, and so they wanted their music to grow with them. With years of personal struggle and professional challenges, the band had finally decided to stop listening to what other people had to say. They decided to finally set themselves free of genre and write music that truly touched their souls. This realization would deliver their most successful album to date, Ammo.
We're going to make the best record ever, do you know what I mean? Because it was so on the brink of it never happened again.
Ammo would be Bring Me the Horizon's most ambitious album to date. It would give the band their first #1 album in the UK, and it would also chart in over 25 countries worldwide. Bring Me the Horizon have become one of the biggest rock bands on the planet, and now they're breaking down genre barriers. They no longer care what people think, they simply want to write music and explore their creativity. From underground deathcore to global superstars.
Well, left turns on the way.
Bring Me the Horizon are no longer in the dark, they're unstoppable.